So I'm very aware it's a little bit controversial when I say that feminists, you are not equal to men. You are not the same as men. You are in so many ways better than men, but then there are many ways that men are better than women. It's doing my head in. It's the same with leaders and managers. It's really fucking me off that people keep thinking they're the same thing. They're not. Stop thinking they're the same thing. So I had a conversation the other day with one of the lecturers at UWE in Bristol, and it was on the whole. It was on leadership, and we're just going through quite a few different things on it, and some really interesting things came out. I mean, she was asking me my opinion on quite a few things, and theories that I've got for some research, essentially. And she was picking it apart, picking the bones out of it, just to to tell me we come up with some clearer questions, bit to and fro. And she asked me about leaders versus managers. So essentially, we're going through the research I'm looking at is whether ex-military individuals from the ex-military can transfer those skills to a civilian management role, in particular project management. So looking at that, and I'm super intrigued, but to see doing some interviews, and super intrigued to see if the answers they give match obviously the literature. Now there's so many holes in this before I've even started, because they're all different ages. Some were in the Marines, some were in the Army, infantry. So that's two differences already. I'm doing 5 interviews, but yeah, they all serve different times. So there could be a difference in whether you're Army or Marines. There could be a difference in who your immediate superior was in the forces. So that makes a difference. But it's all about the skills and traits that you learn, your overall management leadership traits, and whether they're transferable to civilian life. Now, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I'm pretty sure they're going to say yes, that they learnt things in the military that they've then been able to transfer over. I don't doubt that. Now, I also don't doubt that what they say will match the literature, all the buzzwords, like team building skills, organisation, all these sort of things. I'm pretty sure are going to match. I'm also pretty sure that when it comes down to saying, do you think that being in the military helped, I'm pretty sure they're all going to say yes. Now here's one of the questions that I'm looking at, but not directly asking. Now, I think there's a bit of a flaw in the military, in individuals from the military believing that they have great leadership skills. Now, I'm not saying they don't, but when someone chooses to join a military, so we're not talking about countries that have conscription or national service. I'm talking about countries where, for example, the UK and the United States, where people sign up. So when someone signs up, they're signing on a dotted line to say, I know I'm going to be shouted at, I know I'm going to be told what to do, and I'm signing up to be subordinate. So you're already signing up to say, I'm going to follow orders. Now, because you've signed up, it gives the people in charge of you a false sense of their leadership skill, I believe. Now, here's where it goes to that was kind of like tier 2. So that's kind of like a down the rabbit hole second level. The third level is the fact that these ex-military individuals believe that they've gained extra leadership ability by being in the military. Maybe the thing that does make them good in management roles outside of the military isn't the skills they think they've got. Maybe it's the fact that they believe they are better leaders. So maybe the bit that makes them better is the fact that they believe they're good in charge. And it's not their team building skills. I'm pretty sure there's people, for example, they're in an environment that gives them a false sense of ability in their leadership skills, whereas a lot of people outside the military and civilian life don't get that opportunity to be on a daily basis, have people say yes sir, no sir, yes sir, no sir, yes sir, no sir. So anyone else going up in, say, like a project management environment might not have the confidence in their leadership skill because they've not had the exposure to people just saying yes or no sir. Whereas in the military they have. So again, maybe the skills aren't what makes them better. Maybe it's the belief that those skills make them better is what makes them better. So maybe believing you're a good leader is the key. So I'm looking at that. Like I said, I really want to look at sporting figures as well and see if, for example, sports captains of teams, if they can transfer their skills to a corporate environment or to a military environment, and again the other way, if people from a corporate environment can transfer their leadership skills to sports or military, and just see if it, like, if they're transferable skills. I do think that there are a lot of flaws in the whole belief of what a leader is as well. Something that I was asked in this conversation was, do I believe leaders and managers are the same thing? Because a lot of people do, and I said, hell the fuck no. They are two completely different things. One is a pusher, the other is a puller. So, for example, it's like two opposite ends of a magnet. One's a manager, one's a leader. So a manager is someone who gets their team and says, right, here's the instructions, here's what we're going to do. You're going to do this, you're going to do this, and I'm going to persuade everyone to get this done and why it's good for them, and we're all going to do it as a team, and you're giving everyone instruction. To me, that's a manager. Regardless of your team building skills or any of that shit, that's a manager. You can be a very good team builder, you can create a very good culture, you can do all these things, you're still a manager. The leader, if you think about in the animal kingdom, the leader would be, you know, when you see like in the jungle, you've got the big silverback. He doesn't say, come on gang, let's go. The silverback will get up, he will wander off, and everyone will just kind of go, yeah, we better go with him. And they just follow. He doesn't say, follow me. They just do. One is a pusher, the other is a puller. Now, the other analogy I thought of was, if you've got a shepherd and a sheepdog and a flock of sheep. So, a manager is the sheepdog. The one who directs everyone. The one who's, you go here, and you go here, and you do this, and you do that. And they're pushing, they're directing. The leader is the shepherd. The leader's not doing doing a bit of directing, but more so the leader is there to oversee and basically keep an eye on the manager and make sure that things are done fairly and everyone is treated fairly, and there to protect people and look after people. Now, another example would be if you had a group of slaves. I can't think of anything else. Let's say like Egyptian slaves. You've got all these Egyptian slaves. You've got the people that are forcing them to work. they are the managers. The one who is directing what is happening, they are the managers. Now, the one who stands up for everyone, I think like in the film like Spartacus, I think it was, Spartacus stands up. That's a leader. So the leader is the person that goes against the grain and can take the shit that other people can't to protect those that can't protect themselves. That's a leader. Leaders are very protective, whereas a manager is a completely different thing. So when people, if when I ask people what makes a good leader, a lot of the responses I get back are decisiveness, assertiveness, team builder, organized, all these different traits. Now, I think what they're describing is a great manager. It's the difference between a good manager and a great manager. I think a leader is a completely different thing. I really do. Now, in a business, if you have a great manager can achieve great things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being a great manager. Now, if something happens that that manager doesn't agree with, that manager will resist, and then eventually, because they're thinking about themselves and their career and the, let's say the project, whatever it may be, they will back down from a bad order and they will go along with it. A leader might be below that person and say, no, you are not going to treat my people like this. And that leader, it might be even protecting people that don't know they need protecting. So it might be, you're going to rip off all these customers for greed. It's not right, it's not happening, it's not on, it's blah, blah, blah. That to me is a leader, is a protector, someone who goes against the bully. That's a leader. Now, I believe you can be a leader as a person without followers. You can be a protective person, and if those people were there, they would follow you. I can think of examples, so many different examples of, I think I said before about Hacksaw Ridge, where in the movie, Desmond Doss saves all those people, and they will only follow him to go up there again. They will not attack without him. So he kind of organically becomes someone that they will follow. If he says no, they won't do it. They are following him. He isn't a military man. He won't pick up a gun. I say military man. He won't pick up a gun. He's not, he's not talking tactics. He's not doing any of these things. He's not a great tactician. He's not a great manager. But what they're all doing is following him. That is the definition of a leader. And this is where I think, and I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb here and say, a ridiculous percentage of people that study leadership are fucking wrong. They've got it wrong. They've been told this is what a leader is, and this is how are we gonna, how do we create someone like this? But I think you're looking at the wrong thing. Another example would be, again, if you look at, say for example, you took a country like Japan, where there is a lot of respect and you're kind of brought up to have manners and very polite. If your boss says this is what we're going to do, you don't really get much dissent because that's within the culture. So I think the culture plays a massive part as well. It gives people a false sense of their leadership skill. I think management skill, the how to manage people. Now, a great leader can also be a great manager, and a great manager could be a great leader, but I don't think they are the same. I think, let's just say, One is a lion and the other is a wolf. So let's just say the lion is the leader, the wolf is the manager. They're different. Now, if you talk about swimming, a tiger is a cat that can swim. The wolf can swim, the lion will not. But the tiger can. So I kind of feel like there is a hybrid. There are people, there are managers and leaders that can do both. But it's not often, because I believe they are two different skill sets, two different people. Now, here is where I think people are getting it wrong. And this might piss off some people, but this is my opinion. A lot of the feminists out there today will say, I'm going to be the CEO, I'm going to be a strong female, I'm a strong independent woman, trying to give it very alpha dog. I'm equal to a man and blah blah blah. Now, in the nicest way, shut the fuck up, because women are not the same as men. Women are not. There are so many things that men can do better than women. But here is the point. There are so many things women can do better than men. Men are not superior to women. Women are not superior to men in terms of their worth. If anything, women have the greatest gift on the planet. Women can grow another human being. And I understand they can't do it without a man. But it just, the gift that women have, just for that, women should be worshipped for that, because it's such a powerful, beautiful thing that women can do. So what fucks me off is, yes, women weren't given equality, and yes, women weren't treated as equals, and I disagree with that. I think everyone should be treated as an equal, and I think everyone should be given respect as a human being. I'm not saying everyone should be treated the same, because some people don't respond differently to others. I will speak with a bit more respect to someone who's 80 years old than I will to someone who's 20 years old. You just speak differently to them. That's just respect of, life experience or whatever. But what I'm saying is for opportunities in life, the fact that women should be allowed to vote, of fucking course. Women should be allowed to have the opportunity to do anything a man can do, really. Now, I'm not saying there should be equal representation, because, for example, to be a firefighter, if you can't pass the physical test, you don't do it. That goes the same for men, for women, whoever. If you can't pass the physical test, you're not going to be a firefighter. Don't lower the fucking standard because someone's a woman. That's ridiculous. That's like saying we've got, and I used this example the other day when I was asking people about equality within gender and all these sorts of things, and I was saying, should Tom Cruise be allowed to play Nelson Mandela in his biopic? Should he be allowed? Is it right? I don't know. So then I said, right, next one would be the 100-meter sprint. So people with one leg get their own race. People with one arm get their own race. People with cerebral palsy get their own race. People in wheelchairs get their own race. Women get their own race. Men get their own race. Why isn't there a Caucasian men's race? Someone might say, well, men get their own race already. Whoa. Why do women get their own 100-meter race? Because they're not as able as men, physically. Clearly, Caucasian men aren't as able as generally the ex-slave group. Sounds harsh, but the ex-slaves of southern United States, the Caribbean, those sort of areas, why? And I mean, it's horrible what happened. Where I'm kind of going off on a bit of a tangent now, but where the slaves were, a lot of the weaker slaves would die on the way over, and then when they got to the United States, they were bred. They would find the biggest slave they could, huge black dude, and then they would breed him like an animal. I read an article a while ago about there was one slave who was huge, and they bred him like a thoroughbred because he was so big, and I think he fathered something like over 2,000 children, and it's just, all jokes aside, because obviously there's loads of jokes, but ultimately it's not funny, and it's that combined with when a war happened and the black men weren't allowed to fight, all the strong and fit white men would go off and get just destroyed in war. So your gene pool for the Caucasians was going down, and all that kind of designed selective breeding meant that the black gene went up. So it was a bit like this. So you've now got, in that 100-meter race, you've got, all those black men have got an advantage. They've been bred to be stronger and faster, and so if that means the Caucasians are less able, shouldn't the Caucasians get their own race? Should there be a race for people under 6 foot because they got shorter legs? Should there be a race just for people over 6 foot? No, you're starting to get ridiculous. So why should there be, if you want to go this far, why should there be a women's race? Why should there be a disabled race? Oh, because to give them a chance. But okay, but my point is, I'm happy with the way it is. It's not a problem. But my point is, people are kind of going a bit far with it and saying about equal opportunity and all this and all, and essentially, if what's bugging me is you've got too many. And again, I agree that women are treated with a huge amount of respect, and that are women are just beautiful creatures. They just are, and I think women have some amazing management and leadership skills that men don't. Men are generally a bit bullish and impulsive, and women are a bit more thoughtful. But then at the same time, women have got weaknesses as well. But my point is this. To get to the point, my point is this. Women who are the feminists, who say, now I have the opportunity to be the CEO, to be this, to be that, are now trying too hard to compete with the men. My opinion on this is, if you are 5 foot and the NBA have banned everyone under 6 foot from playing in the NBA, and then all of a sudden they scrap that ban and say anyone can play now, regardless of height, do you as a 5 foot person go, right, I've got to prove that I can get in the NBA now? No. Fuck that. As a woman, I believe you should be proud of who you are and what you are. Proud of being a woman. Stop trying to be a fucking man. Stop trying to compete. And I understand people say about, oh, there's a pay gap, there's a gender pay gap. Now, I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that at all. I'm not denying that old men stuck in their ways, have gender bias. They will hire men. They will generally pay men more, give men more opportunities. I agree with all this shit. I do, and it's wrong. It's going to take a long time to get rid of that. But at the same time, instead of trying to say we want more women CEOs and we want more women alpha leaders and all this bollocks, instead of that, why don't you just say, well, women naturally, biologically, and they've done loads of tests on this where, they put little boys in a room and little girls in a room, and the girls go to the dolls and the boys go to all the cars and all this sort of bollocks. They've done this loads of times. Boys tend to beat each other up. Girls tend to kind of talk and care about each other, and they're a lot more emotional creatures. Boys are generally just dickheads. But the point is, instead of trying to say, right, we're going to try and push more women to go into those male roles, how about instead you push for women to be paid, or not women, but the roles that women are more likely to do? Why don't you push for those roles to have higher pay instead? So instead of saying we want more female managers within construction, for example, instead of that, which is more of a boy thing, and I'm not saying it can't be for women, but it just generally is. Instead of trying to force women into that, why don't you say, let's just pay midwives more. Let's pay midwives. Let's take some of let's tax construction, and because there's so much profit in it, tax construction and take some of that money and put it into the pay for midwives. Why don't you do that? Why don't you pay women more? But not necessarily they've got to do the same job. Because you're saying, well, you can get paid more if you do something that you might not naturally be very good at. How's that fair? How's that fair? You're asking me to... You're saying to me I can get paid more if I do something that naturally I'm... I'm have I got patience to look after babies and look after young children? And am I maternal? And I love my kids, but am I like that? Am I someone who's a carer? No. I'm a builder. I'm a problem solver. I like constructing things. I like finding problems and sorting them. And that's my mindset. So instead of trying to force me to do one, or force women to become problem solvers and doers and go out in the rain, and instead of forcing women to do that, instead equal out the pay for the job roles, not equal out the pay within that same role. That's my opinion. Now, going from this, I'm so off topic, but going back to managers and leaders, or leaders in general, this is what fucks me off. People seem to have this perception that, or feminists have this perception that men, being a man, behaving like a man, is superior to behaving like a woman. So I think most feminists are fucking idiots. When you got those women who are saying, I'm going to be an alpha and I'm going to be a powerful woman, why is that a positive? Why isn't being a nurturing, beautiful, caring woman, why isn't that powerful? To be that really strong matriarch. For me, that is as powerful. When you have a king and a queen, the king might do all the talking, but that doesn't mean that has the final say in everything. He might, like in my marriage, I respect my wife so much, and I respect her opinion, and to me she is my full equal. But there are things that are within my expertise and I have the final say, and then there's things that are within her expertise. She has the final say. So I respect her knowledge set, skill set. She respects my knowledge set, skill set. We've got very different roles. I think way too many couples now, both of them behave, both parents behave like maternally. And again, I'm not saying the woman has to be the carer, but generally you've got one carer and one disciplinarian, one who's the protector, the provider, and then the other one who's the more of the stay-at-home carer. Now you've got some families where both parents go out to work, they're both career people, and then they just fucking forget the kids, and you're both providers. And then you've got other ones where they're both carers and they're both just wet, and neither of them are disciplinarians, and it's just not fucking working. You need one of each, in my opinion. Now, going back to this whole leadership and manager thing, if you've got a, like I said, what fucking does my head in when you've got, at the moment, and I think it is in people's subconscious, it is in their brain where they're like, I think it happened with a lot of black people as well when black rights came about and black people got kind of equality and equal rights, equal votes, all this sort of stuff. And a lot of black people, I think, were like, right, now we can be, now we can, we've got the same rights as white people. We're going to try and become white people. And it's like, no, 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 no. Be proud of who the fuck you are. Be proud that you are black. Stop behaving white. It's a culture, not a colour. This is why I hate it called black and white. It's a culture. So when people say like, oh, Eminem's white, albino black people are white. Or are they black? If you've got someone who's completely fair-skinned but grew up in Jamaica, well, it's black culture. Are they white? Or are they black? With the whole thing that I said previously about Barack Obama, if he's got one fully white parent and one fully black parent, why do people call him black? He's not black. It's like people have gone, well, here's the colour chart. Anyone that is in a 1 is white, and anyone that is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is black. Everyone's black. Everyone's black. It's just, they put everyone in the same box. Well, you're not white, you're all the same. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm again going way off topic. Back to leaders and managers. Leaders and managers. Fucks me off that people say we're going to train our managers to become leaders. Why? Why the fuck do you want that? You want people in your company who are going to stand up to you and say no. You don't want that. What you want is to make your managers better managers. You don't want people who do not see hierarchy. You do not want people who are going to protect everyone behind them and fight you to the death for it in the name of what is right. You don't want that. So why are you trying to make managers into leaders? And also, you don't even know what the fuck a leader is. You don't know the definition of a leader. So people have got this backwards concept of manager is like inferior to a leader, and it's not. It's a completely different thing, completely different skill set, completely different role within society. Like I said, it is one is a protector and the other one is a doer and a make shit happener, if that makes sense. So I just think that, again, I really want to look at this, and I really want to get to the bottom of it and make that. I really want to make it clear what the differences are. But what blows my fucking mind is when I hear professors and experts and leading authorities on leadership, and they're talking about, yeah, leaders and managers is the same thing. There's just no fuck right off. They're two completely different things. It's like saying, this is how dumb it sounds to me. It's like saying, I've got a pet at home. Well, I've got 2 pets actually. They've got 4 legs. I feed them when I get home. They sleep with me in my bed. I love playing with their tails. They're cute. They've got really soft ears, and they've got like little cold noses, and they're awesome. You know, I love them. I love their little paws. Yeah, and then someone will say, what are they, dogs? No, one's a dog and one's a cat. But what you've done is you've gone, you know, here's the 20 things that are the same, so they must be the same. Because they've got 4 legs, they've got paws, they've got nails, they've got a tail, they've got a neck, they've got a head, they've got a nose, they've got 2 eyes, forward-facing eyes. But you've missed out so much stuff. So, they must be the same. That's like the joke with Paddy and Murphy buy 2 horses, and they're like, how are we going to tell them apart? And they're like, oh, I know, let's cut the mane off of mine. So they go riding. Paddy cuts the mane off of his. They go riding. They jump over a hedge, and they go under a tree. And Murphy's horse's mane gets ripped off on the tree. So they're like, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?" Now, I know. Why don't we? Paddy says, "I'll cut the tail off of mine." They go, "Okay, cool." So they go riding, jump over a hedge. Murphy catches the tail on a bush on his horse, and they're like, "Fuck, what are we gonna do?" We cut off the manes, we cut off the tails. What are we gonna do? Don't know. So old man comes walking up the road, and he's like, "What's up with you two?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't know how to tell our horses apart. What are we gonna do? We cut the manes off, we cut the tails off. How are we gonna tell them apart?" And the old man says, "Paddy, why don't you have the white one and Murphy have the black one?" That's my fucking point. Too many people are looking at the similarities of what they are and saying, "Oh, they're the same." It's like saying, "Oh, I'm not even going to go there again." But it just fucks me off because I think too many people have got stuck on what they believe a leader is. And again, if you look at the culture of countries, it makes a huge difference. What people's perception is, the stereotype of what a leader is. You grow up and you think, "Oh, well, this is a stereotype." No, it's fucking winding me up. It winds me up. All these so-called experts who think that they're the same. It fucking does my head in. It really winds me up. So, just looking at my notes. Last note I put was I could be taught. So this is the other thing I thought. So again, I'm not 100% on this one. This is just a theory. I think whereas a manager can be taught, so someone can be taught to be organized, and someone can be taught to manage through kind of becoming a salesman and being able to persuade people. And I think a lot of those skills you can be taught. So I think you can teach someone to become an incredible manager. I think it's more difficult to teach certain aspects like charisma and things like that, but you can teach someone to be a manager. Here's the key. I don't believe you can teach someone to be a leader. I don't think. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I'll tell you why. I think the traits of being a leader are generally that you're very protective, naturally. And I think, I don't know how this, I feel that for myself, because of my childhood and the fact that I was adopted and I had a lot of emotional issues when I was young, a lot of trauma, I gained this ability to be able to switch off my emotions in time of need, in time of pressure. So that ability came by, I think, when you go through so much as a child, it's kind of like a coping mechanism of I don't think you're old enough to get, let's call it PTSD. So instead, the wire just gets cut, and instead of it being like let's call it a permanent live, you get a switch. So I think when times get tough now, I can just switch them off, and my emotions just don't come through. Whereas I think a lot of adults who haven't gained that switch, they've got a permanent live. And I think when they start getting trauma coming through as an adult, that's how they end up getting PTSD, because they can't just switch off. They can't switch those emotions off. They're just constantly coming through. So I think that trauma from childhood, maybe not like a massive trauma, but something is going to have happened to make them protective, and make them into shepherds. And I think, again, I'm not 100% on this one, but I do think that is a major difference between a leader and a manager. Is one is selfless completely, and the other is selfish in terms of wanting to win. I think that's the difference. Selfish, selfless. And not selfish in a bad way, but I just think they don't have the ability to think about other people because they're so focused on just going forward. They don't have time to look at the big picture and stand back and look and think about everyone else around them. I'm not sure how this comes into it as well, but the art of manipulation. I don't know. I mean, part of my coping mechanism, I know that and I know a lot of people get fucked off by this, but you develop. Oh, it really does my head in when people go, no, it's not, no, it's not. You develop. I know you can get ADHD as a hereditary thing, but at the same time, I think people do develop it as a coping mechanism. And that ADHD can lead to like having very strong powers of intuition, and then you find it easy to, like for me, I statistical analysis, critical analysis, all this sort of stuff, I've just naturally done my whole life. And because of that, I find it quite, like, manipulation is a powerful tool that I've learned. And I believe that it's down to the user to be able to, whether they're going to use that power of manipulation for good or bad. And I think a lot of narcissists out there would use it for bad because they're purely selfish. So I think that's the difference. Someone who has, you can be a persuasive person, which is like a seller, and then you've got a manipulative person who is someone who can get people to do things without them know they're doing it. So it's like the film Inception without going into someone's dream. You're doing it while they're awake. So I think you've got, if you put it into a square and you put it into a box and you had the selfish box and the selfless box, and then you had your persuasion and manipulation. I think if you've got selfless, I think I did that the right way around. Anyway, if you've got selfless and manipulation, it's good. But if you've got selfish and manipulation, very, very, very bad. But then you can also have selfless and persuasion, which I think is probably pretty common. Then I think you go on to it, you can get it to an even further, if you want to expand the box even more. I think you've got people who are selfish but don't know that they're selfish, and then you've got selfish but they are very aware that they're selfish, which is where you get your narcissists. And then I think you've got selfless but they don't know, they're just very caring, kind, beautiful people. But then you've got selfless and they're aware of their selflessness. So I think, again, if you're going to make that graph even bigger, I know I've rambled on about a lot of shit and there's a lot of theories in here, but I believe that there is a big, well, I know for a fact there's a fucking massive difference between managers and leaders, but I do believe that what people need to get out of their head is that a leader is superior to a manager. So I think people need to stop saying, we're going to train our managers to be leaders. Shut the fuck up. Just make your managers the best managers. That's all you need to do. That's what you want. You don't want them to be leaders. So I think a leader, if anything, within a corporate environment is fucking trouble. They're potentially going to be trouble because they will go against you for what is right. You do not want that. I think you can have a leader run a business, and they're probably the best type of CEOs you can get because they want to look after their people. They really do. They care. So, again, I think people need to stop seeing a leader as superior. I don't think it's superior. I think it's a completely different animal, breed of animal. It's like saying, a Rottweiler or a Doberman. I think they're the same animal but different breed, and they both do different jobs. But people seem to think, oh, leader's number one, I'm an alpha. Most people don't know what the fuck alpha means. Generally, within society, again, I think the stereotypes got it wrong. What most people think an alpha is just a fucking bully. It really is. People who think they're alphas are just fucking bullies. They don't think about other people. They've got zero empathy. They're just fucking bullies. So that needs to change. That stereotype needs to change, and the stereotype of what a leader is, and the fact that managers are inferior to leaders, I think is wrong. I think managers are in some ways superior to leaders. I think managers can achieve a lot more because the manager will leave someone behind to achieve the goal, whereas leaders will leave someone behind to save everyone else, but they will always value the person over the goal if it's, how do I word it? To win, to win the next business deal, the leader won't sack a really loyal member of the team who's a family man and been with the team for years. Won't sack them. They'll just lose out on that £1 million deal. Whereas the manager will do what they've got to do to get that £1 million deal. So I think having that manager is better. I really do. Sometimes in certain environments. So anyway, they are completely different. Anyone who says otherwise fucking does my head in, and I'm more than happy to have a debate with them, but there is no debate. You're wrong. Fact. And I just think people need to stop trying to force. The misconception is that women need to be men to be seen as equal, and I think that's wrong. I think in many ways, as I said, women are superior. Be proud of who the fuck you are. You're beautiful creatures. There's so many things women can do that men can't. So stop trying to prove that you are equal to men, because you already are. You already are. And I think that's where you've got it wrong. Be proud of being a woman. Be proud of the shape of a woman, the ability of a woman. Stop trying to be a fucking man. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I know I went off on quite a few tangents. Apologies. Got a little bit carried away. A very passionate subject. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. Yeah, I'd love to hear your opinions on that. I know there's probably quite a few things in there that people would disagree with. I know that tons of people have got an opinion on ADHD. People have got different opinions on feminism and leaders and managers, and prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, please. And good luck. But this is all my research. This is what I want to do. Obviously, the first step, one of the first objectives is I just want to hear about this military, this research I'm doing on ex-military to project management conversion, and I want to. After I've done the interviews, I'll let you know what happens. But I do want to see what these military say, and I have got a feeling they believe it has helped them, and that might be the thing that has helped them. It's going to be very difficult to test that. That belief is more important than the actual skills they got, but I think that's probably goes a long way towards it, and also practice. They're practicing being leaders, even though it's in a false environment where people are just saying yeah. They're in a false environment, so they are practicing being leaders a lot more than people, managers, if you want to call it that. They're practicing being in charge for years. So when they go into civilian environment, they've had so much practice in saying, do this. And people go, okay. I know a lot of the military people I've spoken to, they said that the one thing that surprised them the most about civilian life was the lower standards of civilians. So they didn't they were told to, if someone was told in the military, you have to do this at this time and you have to do it this good, that's exactly what they did. They just like, okay, yes sir, yes sir. In civilian life, you tell someone to do something, they'll try and cut corners, they'll turn up late, they can't be bothered, they're like, ugh. And that's, I know, what a lot of ex-military have struggled with the most when they have transferred. So again, that gives you a clue that probably the environment is a little bit of a false environment within the military. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. I have. Apologies for the rant again. Like I said, I'm dying for a drink now. Dry mouth. Cool. Let me know what you think, please. I'm excited. I've got a couple of interviews coming up, and hopefully they go really, really well, and get some more people on. Start really creating an image of what all these different leaders are. I'm going to go out on a way out there and speak to different people to do with just because I'm intrigued by it and I think there is something in it. I want to speak to people about experts on narcissism, experts on ADHD, experts on adoption, just because I feel that it's worth looking at. Do people who have had that childhood trauma, do they become better leaders because they become more protective? I also know that something I'm very intrigued about, which is what I do want to find out about, is when I've looked up the traits of what happened to a lot of adopted kids, I went through the same as a child, so I had a lot of the same issues that a lot of adopted children would. So lack of self-worth and like identity issues and all this sort of stuff. But who I am today it's like miraculous the difference, and I don't understand what's happened to me to make me like that. I don't understand how I've come out the other side where a lot of people haven't. So yeah, I'd love to speak to some people on adoption about that, because I think it's played a massive part in my interest in leadership, my ability within leadership. But like I said, I'm not saying I'm a great manager. I think I am, but I'm not saying I'm a great manager. I just think naturally I'm very protective, which makes me a good leader automatically. Anyway, thank you for your time. Like I said, please leave me a comment if you have an opinion on anything. Spread the word. The more people I can get listening, the more hopefully interviewers I can get, or interviewees I can get, and then hopefully the caliber of interviewer, and I mean just I want to get a plethora, a very eclectic plethora of interviewees, and I just want to get all this information down, put it all into research, and yeah, I'm intrigued by it. I'm fascinated. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. So cool. I will speak to you in a couple of days, I think.